Okay, hey everybody, welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today we have a really special review for you from the brand Oak and Oscar. As you guys know, I'm a really huge fan of microbrands on the channel, guys. Really, they just do some amazing things, and I just love kind of what they stand for, and they just foster kind of innovation and individualism. There's not as much, I guess, tactical and there's just less marketing that's involved with kind of what they have to do to present their products to the public. There's not as much of a range. There's not as much of kind of just the planning and everything that kind of goes into when you have a huge brand just releasing a watch, right? Like, let's say for Seiko, when they have to release a watch, they have to figure out where it fits in this big lineup, and they have to figure out the pricing and the price point and the demographic, and can we offer these specs for this amount of money without upsetting this other thing, right? And that's kind of one of the things that's really great about really anything that's kind of craft versus mainstream. So of course, being in San Diego, it's a huge craft beer area, and really that's maybe one of the reasons why I'm such a big fan and support of microbrands like microbreweries, is that they just bring their own flavor to the market, and you just have to appreciate the fact that that's just the way it is, that people are enthusiasts, and they bring products that they get enthusiastic about to the market. And it's not just to fill a space, it's more so to provide a treat and a gift really to their fellow enthusiasts. So with that said, a little bit about Oak and Oscar. They were founded back in 2015. They're out of the US, and they're basically an enthusiast run brand focused on small batch releases of original minimalist aesthetic sports watches. Now, this particular type of watch is an everyday watch. Some key common characteristics and design language. When you're looking for an everyday watch, you're going to want that versatile blend of sporty and dressy attributes, which I think this thing really, really nails in its scale and its execution. This is, of course, the Olmsted 38 in the navy dial. So with all that said, let's go ahead and take a closer look. All right, as you can see, within the background here, you get a little bit of a look at kind of what you get when you purchase this piece. And man, look at this watch wallet, essentially. Really man, I'm loving the canvas, loving this kind of tweed interior. You do get a tool here for sizing and adjusting. One side is going to be the screwdriver side for the links, and then you have another side to adjust the micro adjusts, or use those holes there for the drilled lugs to switch out onto a strap of some kind. Really nice. You can see do have even a spot for the NATO strap. Everything tucks into here nicely. You even have this little extra piece of material so that the bracelet itself doesn't scratch up against the back of the watch. So they've really thought of everything there, and it just shows that this is really an enthusiast kind of run brand, and their ideas, and I think their passion for what they put out really speaks volumes in the design and of course the execution. Now, I'm a huge fan of this idea of an everyday watch, a watch you can wear every day, and it's just going to always be at home on your wrist in any situation, no matter how formal or how casual. And I think what they do here with the Olmsted 38 is they really just focus in and kind of refine that whole idea, and they remix it, and I'm really digging what they came out with. Basically, this thing is a classic automatic winding 38 millimeter field watch with a 2-layer sandwich dial. It has a screw down crown, an inner minute track, as you can see, and then we do have the the orange cardinal accents there, which are really, really great. So you can get the nice little orientation at your 12, 3, 6, and 9, and then you also do have that really nice elongated seconds hand and this great dial. I mean, a sandwich dial in a watch this thin is really something to shout about, guys. This thing is gorgeous. And now it doesn't have a bunch of contouring or anything like that to really accentuate the thinness, but the thinness are in the specs, guys. They came across the screen, but this is a 38 millimeter watch. of course. And then when it comes to the thickness, it's only 10.8 millimeters thick, and then it has only a 44.9 millimeter lug to lug. So this thing is very, very wearable, but the way that the dial layout is, it actually doesn't make the watch feel very small or diminutive. I think it utilizes the space really, really well, and it pushes, those hour markings out, and then it does utilize, the chapter ring really well. To get a little bit more dial real estate that isn't technically there, right? When you're looking at it straight on, you get a nice little angle of the extra index, which I think is really, really great. You do have a double dome sapphire with multiple layers of AR coating. We have a really nice brushed bezel there fixed, and then you have a nice matte finished screw down crown, signed really beautifully there. You can see the drilled lugs, this beautifully articulated bracelet. You guys know I'm a sucker for a premium bracelet, and that is what this is. And you know what? Just because it's premium doesn't mean it has to try to necessarily be some big luxurious affair here. Very simple brushed finish, but the design itself, the functionality, I'm really digging that fully articulated 3-link system. This isn't just 3 pieces of metal stuck together. They're all articulated, as you can see. Look at that. So this thing is just going to drape beautifully on any wrist, no matter how small or how large. So really nice. And I love how it kind of, as it lays, it flattens itself out and just plays with the light really beautifully. So such as for a watch that is really very simple and minimalist in design, there's just so many points of beauty in the design the closer you look. So I can really definitely appreciate that. As far as the movement goes, you've got your ETA 2892A2 with a little customized rotor there. If we get the camera to focus. All right, as you can see, really nice. You got the little star motif on there. Nicely finished because it is just generally nicer movement. Not like your basic ETA 2824. This thing is ultra thin and hyper capable, keeping great time. Now, as far as the dial goes, let's take a closer look. As you guys know, this thing does have a beautiful matte blue. This navy is such a deep and true navy blue. It's not some big over-the-top loud kind of retro 70s blue. This is just a really nice sedate, go anywhere, do anything blue that I think really suits any wrist or any, depending on whatever you wear and your color palettes and style. And if you've ever worn a pair of jeans in your life, this thing is gonna match because it just dials in and just laser focuses. Out of all the palettes of blue, I think they chose a real winner for this particular style. You do have painted hands there, so it's not going to give off a lot of reflections. From that standpoint, it's going to ultimately just be legible in any lighting, any type of reflection setup there. It's going to be something you can keep very, very readable on the wrist. As far as the bracelet goes, you do have the 20 millimeter links, lug width, so it's perfect. And then these links do taper down from 20 down to 16 millimeters, which is great. And man, look at that. Oh, that I love a good taper, and look at the way the light plays off of the metal, the beautiful fine brushing that was done here. Look at the light play on that. For just full brushing, there's no chamfers or anything to draw your eye, so it really makes you even appreciate the level of brushwork that much more. When it comes to the clasp, it's pretty basic, guys. It's a little flip lock action here, as you can see, but you do have the very usable micro adjust holes, as you can see here. Looks like about 5 of them, which is perfect. You can get this thing dialed in great, and then you can of course you can just use either your tool or even a paper clip if you're really in a tough situation and you have any swelling going on in your wrist. But this thing, of course, signed buckle, this stuff is fairly pedestrian, I'd say. in comparison to the rest of the watch, but at the same time the scale, it all fits together. It's one of those things where I try to imagine it with a milled clasp, and I think it might be a little bit too bulky with it, as much as I kind of like at a base I'm gonna want something milled, and maybe with some kind of crazy micro, like we all have these ideas of what we want, but at the end of the day, this isn't a big chunky dive watch. This is something that can be worn every day, and I think part of that wearability is really how minimalist the clasp is. So I got to give him points for that, and it's obviously quite functional, guys. This isn't going to fall off your wrist by any means, by accident or unnoticed. If some amazing pickpocket or magician come by and try to take this off your wrist, you're going to notice it, because it's a very solid clasp design, and there's a reason why those designs have been so popular over the years. But with all that said, let's go ahead and actually move into some wrist shots for you. Okay, guys, as you can see on the wrist, this thing is a beauty. Even on my kind of larger 7¼ inch wrist, it wears really nice. It doesn't seem small at all, and I think a lot of that has to do with the spacing and the utilization of the dial. They're really great. Even up close, this thing is looking quite svelte, and really just right at home on my wrist. And because of the short lug to lug, it'll look great on a much smaller wrist as well. And I think even on larger wrists, this thing's gonna look clean. But they do have some 40mm options as well for those of you that maybe have like a 7.5 or 8-inch range where you're just not comfortable wearing something in this size. But for the rest of you, I think this is a real sweet spot. As you can see, look at the way the light just dances off of those links. Oh man, that's something that you can't catch in the beautiful kind of staged photographs they have in their social media or anything like that. Is look at the movement on here. Look at the way the light just, the uniformity of the play, just gorgeous. And then I really do enjoy that matte screw down crown, really beautiful, and it has its own little pop. And of course, as a touch point, having it be matted is definitely really nice, because it does give you some grip over something that would be let's say a polished surface. So really nice. And the contours, you can see this thing just wraps around the wrist. You have that great female end link so that it doesn't extend out the overall case of the watch at all. So this thing is perfect for the smallest wrists, and definitely well accommodated on a nice average size wrist like mine, as you guys can see. So with that said, let's move into some low light transition and Lume shots. Okay, let's go ahead and hit the lights. As you can see, that BGW9 is really great. For a field watch, this is definitely sufficient lume. Especially considering when I was in the field in the Marine Corps with watches, we actually wanted the least amount of lume possible, so that no one would give away our position. So definitely just readable enough. Really nice for everyday use. That sandwich dial on such a thin watch, really a pleasant surprise as far as that execution goes. Quite nice. But one thing I do like to do as well when I do these Lume shots is actually show you some low light transitions, so you can kind of get an idea of how these colors are going to render in more natural lighting situations versus just like super full on perfect studio lights that are going to be more kind of indicative of direct sunlight. So you do get an idea. Look at that blue. Just keep your eyes on the way that it transitions and the way that it plays, and it just stays blue. It never hits purple or anything like that. It's just a beautiful navy blue. Even here you can get a little bit more saturation and kind of the way that blue is going to perform, and it's still nice, deep, and dark. And you can see obviously that the blue outline on the hands looks gorgeous. But one thing also that the studio lights tend to do is wash out some of the details in the finishing and the brushing. But here in the low light transition, it's going to expose you. It's going to show you much harsher lighting situations where you can really see imperfections in the finish. But look at the way the light just glides so uniformly off of those links. you're not seeing any, I mean, really only defects or signs of wear, of course, from this being a press loaner and me wearing it a little bit here and there to kind of get an idea of it. But look at the light play on those front few links there. Look at the way the light just dances laser-like over those links. It's just a level of quality that doesn't often get realized in pictures. So you can really get a nice idea of it here with kind of some of the light play going on. So really gorgeous in really any lighting situation, but man, do I like to look at it fully lit because this thing is really gorgeous. Now, on the wrist, kind of closing thoughts. Perfect proportions, very comfortable and balanced wear. Model variants go, you get a white dial, gray dial, a navy dial, all outstanding. For me, my personal pick, it's tough. I'd probably choose the white dial, although this blue is absolutely gorgeous. I'm a big blue dial fan. This thing is ultimately legible and versatile. So, and I dig that it actually does have the sandwich lume, which is one thing that the white dial is lacking because it has a white dial, of course. So the sandwich underneath is a black disc. But it's I think in lighting and daylight, it's definitely a great, exciting look, especially with the beautiful orange accents. Now, comparable models go, you know what? I'd say to think of this watch and kind of comparison where you could put it in your head. I mean, if you think Hamilton khaki meets Zen 556 and then you refined it and modernized it, then you'd get this watch. And I think those are really two great examples because the Hamilton khaki has always been this kind of rugged standard when it comes to a field watch. And then when you come think of Zen 556, it takes it up another notch to that ultimate tool, kind of useful everyday watch with very clean finishing. Nothing luxurious, nothing fancy, no chamfering, no high polishing. It's just very minimalist and to the point and to its theme, right? And when you look at this, you look at it and you're like, man, even the date at the 6 o'clock is matched, right? It's the blue disc with the white font because when you're looking at this watch, what's printed on it, it's over blue with white. So it just everything kind of comes together, those little fine details. And that's what I'm talking about when it comes to refinement, right? So refinement doesn't just necessarily mean a bunch of luxurious features. A lot of times refinement is through design as well. And I think when it comes to design refinement, the guys over at Oak and Oscar have really something special going for them. They've created an aesthetic that is very clearly Oak and Oscar over really a generally short period of time. I mean, founded in 2015, and I see an Oak and Oscar watch, I recognize it, which is pretty good when you consider that they haven't really had too many releases, and the ones that do get released are, they get snatched up pretty quick. They're definitely quite desirable timepieces. And I'd say the bottom line is this watch, the Olmsted 38 from Oak and Oscar, it's not trying to be a more affordable version of an existing product. It's really meant to be a better version, from a brand that is more than just a sum of its model lineup, right? So Oak and Oscar isn't just a bunch of watches, they're a brand. Somehow they've really been able to manage to kind of work themselves into a niche that warrants a lot of desirability and a certain level of prestige and ownership, which is tough to get from an independent brand. So, I mean, big ups to Oak and Oscar. They've really done a great job, and I think are a fine example of a watch brand, right? A micro brand, not just a brand that's getting by because it's putting out cool models with great specs and which tends to be kind of the bang per buck micro brand blueprint. I think they're really creating a brand, and the branding is very, very important for Oak and Oscar. Their visualization, their brand design language, it's something that I think is really a huge portion of their value, which is crazy to say, right? You kind of reserve that to brands like Seiko, to Rolex, Longines, these brands that are been around forever, very iconic, Omega. And you think about branding and how important it is for the bigger brands, but somehow, yeah, I mean, Oak and Oscar has done something to make themselves a very in-demand brand, although they're quite a young one. So they're doing a lot right. They kind of have to be, right, to be doing as well as they are. So with all that said, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you like the video, please do hit like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.